Hello. This video is going to discuss just a couple of very basic strategies that you can use to give information in your presentation. The first strategy we're going to focus on is just being descriptive. Adjectives can help greatly with being descriptive because adjectives can give life to your presentation. Think about using adjectives in a strategic way and also use many different types of adjectives. In class, we talked about word stress, and I said that oftentimes for word stress, we would stress the adjective and not the noun. Not always, but often we do. So we would say something like nice vacation. But instead of stressing the word nice, maybe I want to think of an adjective that gives a little more feeling, a little more energy. So maybe I go through and I think of an amazing vacation, or fantastic vacation, an awesome vacation. All of these have a little more feeling than just nice vacation. Sometimes it's really difficult to think of a different word. So, do you know what a thesaurus is? A thesaurus sounds like a dinosaur, but it's actually a book of words that have similar meanings. These days we don't use a book too often, we use more of online sources. So if you go to thesaurus.com, you can see something like this. Now maybe I'm using the word big, but I want something besides the word big. So I can type in big in the thesaurus, and then it gives me a list of words that have very similar meanings. So big, we have colossal, or enormous, or gigantic, immense, massive. All of these words have very similar meaning to the word big, but they might have a little bit more impact than just the word big. Okay, so we talked about how adjectives are really important for painting a picture for your audience. Now let's go ahead and move on to cause and effect. Cause and effect shows a relationship between one idea or event and another idea or event. It's great for critical thinking. This strategy can be used maybe for like a government policy. If you had a government policy, maybe you want to decide, what were some of the causes for the country to have this policy? Or maybe you can look at what are some of the effects that are going to happen in the future because of this policy. When we use a cause and effect strategy, oftentimes when we look at the causes, we're looking at something from the past. Because there's some problem that's happening now, we want to understand why it's happening. So we ask the question, why? For example, you have a policy, but it's not working. So why is this policy not working? What's causing this policy to fail? Or maybe a country or a person feels very strongly about a topic. Why? What is the history there that makes this country or this person feel so strongly about this topic? Oftentimes in a presentation, when we look at effects, we're looking at the future. Not always, but often. So for example, maybe your government has a new policy, and you want to think, what are the effects of this policy going to have in the future, 10 years from now or 20 years from now? Our last strategy is compare and contrast. Now, one thing to remember with compare and contrast, there has to be a number of similarities and differences. If we look here at your cat at home and an elephant, well, there are definitely some similarities here, but there are a lot of differences. Something like this might not be the best topic to compare and contrast. Maybe something that's a little better would be an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar. There's definitely a number of similarities and differences here. Or something like cricket and baseball. Now here, if I was to teach my audience about cricket, I might use baseball. There's definitely a lot of similarities here, and many Koreans already know the basics of baseball. From the knowledge that my audience has, now I can teach them what cricket is. You can have different strategies depending on your purpose. Are you going to focus on the similarities or on the differences of something? Let me give you an example. If we're talking about North and South Korea, and my purpose is to say that North and South Korea should reunite, then I'm going to focus on the similarities. I might talk about, well, there are a little bit of differences between North and South Korea, but look at all these similarities. This is why we should reunite. On the other hand, if I think that North and South Korea should not reunite, I would then focus on the differences. For compare and contrast, there's two different methods that we can use. The first method I'm going to talk about is the block method. Now basically what the block method is you take all the similarities that you want to talk about those first, and then you talk about all the differences. Now, I would do this if I'm going to focus on differences. However, if I was to focus on similarities, I might talk about the differences first and then the similarities second. The second method is point-by-point method. And actually, I feel that this is a better way to organize your presentation. What you do is you take your two topics, again, that you're going to compare and contrast, and you think of three different details showing similarities and differences of each. So for example, if we talk about baseball and cricket, maybe the first thing I'm going to talk about are similarities and differences with the equipment. Maybe the second thing I want to talk about are similarities and differences with the rules and the field. Maybe the third thing I want to talk about are similarities and differences about geographical location and who plays the sport. So in this point-by-point method, I decide what 3 points do I want to talk about and show similarities and differences for both. There are many different ways to present information, and these are just a few examples. So think about which way is best suited for what you're trying to accomplish. Are you just trying to describe what a place maybe looks like or smells like? And you want to use a lot of adjectives. Are you trying to discuss a cause or effect of something? We have this problem now, and this was a cause. Or are you trying to compare something that we already know, and compare it to something that you're teaching us? That makes it easier for the audience to understand. Whatever strategy you use, it's no problem. Just try to think of the best strategy to give information to your audience.